So hello and welcome to Strengthjournal episode 11. This time I'm showing you my last push day. I started this push day with handstand practice, so I'm currently practicing handstands 4 days a week and each of the sessions is pretty similar. So I start with a hollow body hold and a chest wall hold, just like as a warm-up. Then I start with the freestanding practice. In each session I try to accumulate a certain amount of hold time, and how much time I'm trying to accumulate will depend on whether it's a good or a bad balance day and on how much time I want to spend training handstands on that particular day. This session was pretty great, so I got a lot of good holds. I had like 3 30-second holds, which almost never happens, and I had no fails. So a pretty amazing session, and I'm very happy with that. You might notice that my handstand is not very straight, so I do lack a bit of overhead shoulder mobility and probably also a bit the technical control over the handstand. But personally, I don't really care too much about having the perfect straight line handstand because it doesn't really matter too much for my goals. So I do try to improve my overhead mobility and my control of the handstand, but I don't want to become like a very great hand balancer who has a very aesthetic straight line handstand. And the reasons why I train handstands, because for one, I really like the skill because it teaches you a lot about how to control your body in space. And two, I train handstands because I want to achieve skills like the handstand push up and 90-degree handstand push up. So that's why I don't worry too much about having a perfect straight line handstand. And people say that having a straight line handstand is gonna be more efficient, which is true if you have the mobility in your shoulders in order to get into that very straight position. But if you don't have that perfect shoulder mobility, it's probably less efficient because you're wasting time forcing yourself into a position which is simply not applicable for you. And thereby, you spend less time focusing on the more important aspect of the handstand, which is the balance. The second exercise that I did was Handstand Push Up Negatives, and I tried to accumulate 10 repetitions here. I'm currently training handstand push-ups twice a week on my push days in this training block. So I start with freestanding handstand practice just to improve my general balance in the handstand. And then I continue with an exercise that combines both the strength and the technical aspect of the handstand push-up. So this training block I'm doing handstand push-up negatives, and this will teach my body how to control that lowering down phase from the straight line handstand into the bent arm handstand. So I'm really focusing on controlling the eccentric, that lowering down phase, and I'm trying to add in a little bit of a pause in that bent arm handstand position. The handstand push-up negatives that I did in this session were already a lot better than the negatives in the last session that I did. So I had more control over the movement, and on some repetitions I was able to add in that little pause in the bend arm position. So in upcoming sessions, I'm just gonna focus on improving the quality of each repetition. As the next exercise, I did chest to wall handstand push-ups for 3 sets of 5 to 8 repetitions. And my goal of this exercise is to simply increase my overhead pushing strength for the freestanding handstand push-up. After I finished the chest wall handstand push-ups, I actually went outside to an outdoor calisthenics park and did the second half of the workout there. So I did weighted dips for 4 sets of 8 to 15 repetitions, and the last set was bodyweight only, so 3 weighted sets and 1 bodyweight set. There's not really too much to say here. The dips will primarily target the chest and the triceps, and also a bit of the shoulders. And I also like dips as a complementary motion for your handstand push-up, because the handstand push-up is a pressing up movement, and the dip is basically the opposite because you're pushing downwards. So they complement each other very nicely, and one will improve the strength of the other. As an isolation exercise for the triceps, I did dumbbell single arm overhead extensions for 3 sets of 6 to 10 repetitions. Originally I wanted to do the sets with 7.5 kg, but after the first set I decided to reduce the weight because I only got 6 repetitions, so the bottom end of the rep range, and the last repetition was already a struggle. So that's why I decided to reduce the weight. So because our arms are in that overhead position, this exercise will bias more of the long head of the triceps. And the way that I like to set up this exercise is to, for one, grip onto something for more stability. And my goal is for each repetition to touch the dumbbell to my upper trap area. And I would advise you to, for one, arch your back a little bit and also tilt your head downwards when you're doing the repetitions, because that way you have enough room for the dumbbell to go behind your back. And if you don't feel comfortable doing this exercise, because maybe you lack a bit of mobility, or it simply just doesn't fit your build, or it just feels weird with dumbbells, then you could just do them with cables if you're training in a gym, or you could replace them with something like a dumbbell skull crusher or a bodyweight skull crusher, which will have a similar effect on stimulating the triceps. The last exercise that I did was the band pull apart for 3 sets of 6 to 20 repetitions. And this one is going to primarily target your rear delts, upper back and side delts to some extent. So this one is not really a pushing exercise, but more of a pulling exercise. But sometimes I do like to incorporate some pulling work after pushing exercises, just because it feels good, I guess, to do some retraction after a lot of pressing. And you could argue that this movement is not ideal or suboptimal in a hypertrophy context, because it biases the shortened position instead of the lengthened position. And a lot of the latest training science seems to favor exercises that bias the lengthened position. But for one, just because the literature favors exercises that bias the lengthened position doesn't mean that exercises that bias the shortened position are completely useless for hypertrophy and do not build muscle at all. And two, I think when choosing an exercise, there's more to think about than just hypertrophy. For me personally, hypertrophy is very important for me, so I do pick exercises that put tension on the length position of the muscle, but incorporating some exercises that bias the shortened position might have some other values that other exercises don't have. So that's my take on that. And third reason, I simply like the movement. It feels good. I get a good contraction in my rear delts and my upper back. Yeah. So this was my push day. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please press the like button and subscribe to the channel. I will see you next time. Much love and see you on level 100.